Night shifters, ever witnessed a paranormal activity? If so, what was it? I worked at a 7-Eleven. One night I kept hearing what sounded like a little girl crying. But the store was completely empty. Whenever it'd go to the area where I thought it was coming from, I'd hear it from somewhere else. I hope somebody was messing with me, but I'm not sure. Did you happen to have coyotes in your area? They can sound like that. Although I imagine you have a lot of ambient noise from pop machines and coolers and possibly music playing overhead. So I'm not sure how you'd hear them. The coyotes in my area sound like dogs. I've never heard any that sound like crying. Cats though sound like crying. I don't have a story, but here is the one my wife likes to tell. She is a nurse, and for a couple of years she was working night shift in the palliative care unit, which is a comfort care / end of life unit. Patients in that unit are expected to die, or to be sent home, or to a care home to die. Anyways, those rooms also had a radio, and according to her it happened a few times that a radio suddenly turned on, and within an hour or so a patient would pass on. One rather busy night, the radio turned on and my wife went into the room, stared into the darkness, and said, "Cut that out. I don't have time for this shit," and the radio suddenly snapped off. No patient died during the rest of her shift, but one passed away shortly after she clocked out. I'm picturing Death raising his bony hands up like, "Geez. Okay lady. I'll come back later. Why so rude? I just wanted to play some country music before the end of my shift. Geez." I used to intern in a recording studio in New York City years ago where it was technically open 24/7. Meaning there was always someone there, whether clients were in or not. Anyway, it was on an upper floor of a building, and due to the amount of expensive equipment inside, you could not access that floor by elevator without someone letting you up. The button for that floor was locked out, so you couldn't press it from inside the elevator. There was a camera at the front entrance downstairs, another at the elevator entrance, and one inside the elevator, all of which could be viewed from the front desk of the studio, so when people arrived you would buzz them in, wait until you saw them enter the elevator, and then you would have to push the button for the studio floor to bring the elevator up. Well anyway, one of the nights I was working the overpass shift, and it was just me and another dude doing cleaning, maintenance etc. when we hear the elevator start running at probably like 3:30 in the morning. The whole building is all offices, so really there is nobody in the building past 5 to 6 PM besides us. So we thought it was a bit strange. The other guy looks at the cameras, and there's nothing at all. No one in the elevator either. So although it's weird, we just figure someone must still be in the building and called it from a different floor. It made sense until all of a sudden we see it stop at our floor and we hear the door ding. We are both in the lobby about 15 feet away from the elevator, and we give each other the hardest WTF stare ever. I can't explain how much I didn't want those doors to open. We stare like a deer in headlights, completely motionless at the doors as they open. Nobody is there. No one pushed the button. Nothing. We both keep staring completely still and silent, and it becomes really ducking creepy as time goes on and the doors don't shut. As if something is standing in doorway blocking the sensor. The doors usually close after 5 seconds or so, but we stared at it for a good 20-30 seconds or so before they closed, and the elevator returned back to the lobby. We stared for a bit longer before simultaneously looking at each other and saying, "What the duck, dude?" The next day we asked a couple of the other guys about it, and one of the guys said the same thing happened to him in the middle of the night when he was by himself. He said he almost shit himself. Maybe there's a logical explanation for it, elevator malfunction, etc. But it was really damn freaky, since the place was generally kinda creepy at night and there had been some other weird things. I work at a building where after midnight, it's oftentimes just me and my coworker. One night I was scheduled to go home at 3 AM as I walk out of the office and up to the elevators. The elevator dings and the door opens. These are elevators that stay either on the top floor or the ground floor. I'm on neither. I have no explanation for why it would just be there waiting for me to walk up to open, and I almost didn't even get on, but instead I just said UHH thank you. Please don't show yourself to me just in case. Lol. Just a nice ghost. I used to work at a 24-hour Subway. I know. Great start to a paranormal experience story. Huh. Well, one day I was doing the dishes, and my coworker was cleaning the toaster oven and bread oven. Out of nowhere, around 3:30 a.m., I heard our door chime go off. Out of habit I say welcome to Subway as I turn the corner. Nobody there. Coworker gone. I thought okay, maybe he hopped the counter and went for a cigarette outside as he did from time to time. Heading back to the sink to finish the dishes, I hear the door chime again. Nobody. Check the bathrooms. Nobody. What the hell? I ignore the dishes and stand at the front counter, eyeing the doors. Couple minutes later, my coworker comes through the back door. Where we get our deliveries, would you go? I asked him, turning towards the back door area to take out the trash. He replies, door chime. He does the same thing as me. Welcome to Subway. Turns corner to see nobody there, but this time the door was wide open. Our doors are weighted to where they'll close on their own if you let go of them. Door stayed open for a couple minutes as we stared, then suddenly slammed. Not a windy night, and our doors wouldn't even stay open like that on the windiest of days. Have no idea what caused this, or why it happened on that particular night, but after I got a different job I was told it never happened again. Told my boss about the incident, and we all looked at the cameras. Nobody could explain it. Edit. Typo. Obviously it was a socially awkward ghost that wanted a sandwich, but couldn't work up the courage to order one. The #slinging slasher. A lab building where I once worked was the site of murder-suicide, which happened while I was there. Awful and sad. We didn't have shifts per SE, but I had to work late one night autoclaving equipment for the next day's experiment. The autoclave room is right next to the lab where the event took place. I hadn't seen anyone else in the building. After I started the load, I was about to leave the room when I heard a crash outside. I immediately opened the door and saw that all the contents of a table in the hallway had been pushed to the floor. Water bottles, a packet of papers, pens, etc. Since I was right by the door at the time, I would have seen and or heard someone running away. It was against protocol to leave things in the autoclave overnight, so I had to stay an hour and a half to get them out. But nothing else happened. I left the stuff on the floor, though. Didn't want a repeat of that. Hate to look like an idiot. But what is autoclaving? It's a method of sterilizing lab equipment by basically putting it in a super hot oven for a prolonged period of time. It's useful in microbiology labs. I don't inherently believe in ghosts, but if I had a paranormal story it will be this one. I work in one of the major ERs in my city as a HCA. One of my many tasks is post-mortem care on patients who die in our care. One night at around 0200 I was called to the room of an older patient who was palliative had passed, and the family had finished their goodbyes. So I went in to start providing care. This usually means removing any tubes, wires, and monitors from the patient, giving them a bed bath, removing any valuables from the body to give to the family, putting them in a gown and shroud. I like to talk to my patients, even if they have passed, as it puts me at ease and shows respect to them. I explain my actions and talk them through what I'm doing, because even though they have passed they are still my patient. While I was proceeding with the bed bath of the patient, out of nowhere I felt like I was being watched, and then I felt a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice tell me thank you. The hand remained for a moment while I stood there frozen, then all the feelings stopped and the room felt empty. There were no other nurses or staff in the area at the time. Just me. I like to believe that the patient I was providing care for was thankful for my explanations and me continuing to talk to them through their care. Edit. Thanks for the awards and the gold. Never expected my comment to get this far. This is oddly sweet. Just a small thank you for taking care of them before passing on. I worked at a movie store in college. I was closing one night and just kind of doing a final walkthrough. I kept hearing what sounded like movie cases shuffling. I looked around thinking maybe someone had came in last minute, although I didn't hear the bell ring for when someone enters the store. Didn't see anyone. Then I hear what sounds like a movie fall off a shelf in the kids section. I go over, and there's a movie laying on the ground, and I shit you not, it was Casper. At least the ghost or crackhead crashing in the store has a sense of humor. That was a bold thing to do. Worked at a movie theater running the booths upstairs. The projectors are upstairs, obviously, in a long corridor. At night, after the last showing in each theater, you shut off the lights to that theater and the small one over the projector itself. Then you cover the platters to protect from dust. It's not so bad the first few, because at least the lights of nearby projectors are still on for the theaters that are still running. But as you shut each one off one by one, the corridor gets darker and darker and that little viewing window into each individual theater is pitch black. That dull, steady whirring noise you've toned out all night is gone and is now replaced by absolute silence, and there's hardly any light left anymore. Just the lights at the end of each corridor where you sit in between each start time. It's spooky enough is what I'm saying. But one particular night, I'm throwing the covers over one of the platters and I casually glance up into the viewing theater window across the way, and there's a face. It's a little boy's face, and it's sheet white. I know what I saw. I'm sure there's an explanation for it, and there's nothing supernatural about it. But there was a face there, and it scared the absolute shit out of me. It made an already unsettling environment that much more terrifying the rest of the time I worked there. Also, for the record, inside the actual theater, these windows are a solid 8 to 10 feet above the seat backs in the highest row. So, if someone was playing a prank, they'd need a ladder, and even then they'd have nowhere to set it. I used to work as a late night janitor for a movie theater. I've heard talking / whispering in theaters. Cleaning theaters, you would see people out of the corner of your eye sitting in the seats. My old boss worked at an old location where some of the projector rooms were at the end of an extremely long hallway with basically no lighting at the end, so it would get progressively darker as you walked down it. He said you would feel like you were being watched the entire time, and that it would get worse the closer to the end you got. Like if someone was standing at the end of the hallway staring at you as you walked towards them. The theater I worked at was split into two halves with one dark hallway on each side and a bright hallway in the middle. There was a hallway that cut across and connected all three of these. Many of the staff reported being alone and seeing a person cross the threshold of the dark hallway on the opposite side. Lights would turn off and on their own. Each of the theaters has its own small emergency exit hallway. If anyone opens the door, it sets off the alarm. I've seen people walk around a corner into one of these and followed them to tell them they need to leave, only to find an empty hallway. We've also had the alarms go off on their own multiple times. The worst are the real people though. Imagine having your back to a massive pitch black glass window vacuuming at 4 to 5 AM, only to hear a loud pounding against the glass behind you. You turn around to see a face staring at you right behind the glass. It turns out to be someone who forgot their phone or something and decided they needed to get it in the middle of the night instead of waiting until morning. Sometimes we would leave life-sized cardboard standees in the emergency exit hallways to duck with the other cleaners. Imagine turning a blind corner to find Mr. Bean staring right in front of you. Every last one of these is my nightmare. I work the front gate at a military installation. The night shift is super dull and quiet where I'm at. For a while I noticed this dark green old Ford Bronco that would roll up. When I would stand out the gate shack, the car would do a 180 and leave. This happened about 2 to 3 times until I finally caught the license plate before it turned. I ran the numbers to my supervisor. He asked me if I was sure. I said I'm 100% certain. He tells me it couldn't be because the numbers led to a vehicle crash report that involved the exact same vehicle and plate number to which the driver had died, and the vehicle was totaled. That shit made me want to switch to days. That makes me want to go out and buy old cars matching old accident reports and a lettering press. Except that would probably not be the smartest / most reverent idea lol. You have to choose a victim that might have some ties to the accident. Not too close, but close enough it might resonate with them. Then start dressing up as the deceased person in the accident and occasionally appear outside their windows. Place wireless speakers in their walls and pump some spooky sounds through it. Make a key to their house and move things around when they are not there. Finally, when they are on the edge, just stop doing anything. And that's how I won my court case. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.